We'd like to actually introduce many of the people who make Lutheran Heritage Foundation what it is today. And first and foremost, the volunteers, volunteer retired pastors. We call them IRPRs. We call them pastors who are energized but not quite ready to retire fully. And they provide great services for us because we can only cover so many states. So I want to introduce those IRPRs who are with us tonight. And when I mention your name, could you just please stand? Reverend Terry Hazy from Michigan. Reverend David Hudak from Arkansas, by way of Mount Calvary in Detroit, correct? Reverend Herb Kiestman from Texas. Reverend Dr. Bernie Lutz from Minnesota and sometimes Arizona. And Reverend Robert Marshall from Michigan, with a Boston accent. And Reverend Herbert Shum from Indiana. Thank you to all of you. We'd also like to now introduce those board of directors members who are with us tonight. So as I mentioned your name, could you stand please? Brad Flann. Professor Richard Newford. And before I introduce the next person, I would like to say he is one of the few who has been with us from the very beginning, as you heard in the opening prayer, Reverend Walter Otten. And so you don't have to sit down yet. We have a special gift for you. Jeff, we'll give that to you here. Please, Pastor Otten. This is in recognition of the 25 years that you have been with us the entire time. We are extremely grateful. We'd also like to spend some time this evening recognizing the staff of Lutheran Heritage Foundation, many who carry out very important service behind the scenes without a lot of recognition, fanfare. We'd ask that when your name is called, if you'd please come forward, walk across the stage, and then after you shake hands with Pastor Heisey, if you would just remain standing in front of the stage. And we're going to work in reverse chronological order. A couple of new staff members that have joined us this year. I'd like to have Reverend Rod Bankendorf come forward. Rod resides in Missouri, serving as development and fundraising for us in the state of Missouri, and served on the board of directors for a number of years prior to accepting a call to serve on our staff just a few months ago, and is already doing a fantastic job making connections for us across Missouri. So thank you, Rod. Yeah. And then also another newcomer who I introduced earlier as our African project coordinator, Reverend Dinku Bato, joins us from Minneapolis area. Dinku is coordinating all of the African translation work for us. Has made already one initial trip to Africa to visit some of the translation sites, and is getting to know some of the other individuals working for us now in Africa here this weekend and into the week, and we'll certainly be spending a lot of time traveling across Africa in the years to come. So thank you, Dinku. I'd now like to call up Anna Bagnall. Anna joined our staff in 2016, does a fantastic job managing our website, handling a lot of the social media aspects, reaching out to our constituent base that is in tune with social media, does a great job of making sure our content stays up to date on our website, and we're working on some pretty exciting things for the coming year in connection with the website and making it, I guess, more useful to those that are looking for different books and materials in languages to reach out to people in their neighborhood or as they travel abroad. So thank you, Anna. I'd like to have Marlene Herzog join us. Marlene joined our staff in 2015, has been instrumental in working amongst LWML groups, not only in terms of grant writing, but networking, making connections for us, identifying people to actually sponsor the projects that we're putting forward. And a big shout out to all the LWML members that are in attendance here tonight for the fantastic support that comes from LWMLs, not only nationally, but from the different districts. Thought Wilton had something to say there, but we better keep going. Up next would be Reverend Larry Rockaman. Larry joined our staff in 2013. Former dean at the St. Louis Seminary, so we often refer to him as the dean. Larry resides in the state of Tennessee, but travels coast to coast with the many connections that he has, representing LHF at conventions, conferences, and keeping the youth in line at the Higher Things conferences. So thank you, Larry, for all that you do and raising more friends for us. In 2007, Karen Floyd joined our staff. Karen works behind the scenes in our mailroom, not only handling all of the outgoing mail, but all of the book requests that come in for people looking for materials in different languages. So our fulfillment requests, especially here in the United States, have just increased tremendously through campus ministry outreach. Again, more churches having teams travel abroad to different locations. Karen actually fills all those requests, getting books where they need to be in time for people to take with them or to hand out to their own neighborhoods. So thank you, Karen. Another staff member that joined us in 2007, Gail Schettenhelm. Gail is a receptionist for us and also administrative assistant. Does a lot of work in terms of data entry as well. All the conventions that we attend to, the attendees receive follow-up letters, and Gail does quite a bit of data entry, getting those letters out, and certainly helping to coordinate and organize attendance and RSVPs for functions like this. So, Gail, thank you for your service. We had a few staff members join us in 2006. I'd like to have Lisa Mancini join us. Lisa handles all of our finance, bookkeeping operations. Again, is instrumental in making sure the finances of the organization are in track in terms of preparing monthly financial statements for the board and also performing all kinds of other financial related opportunities that help us cut costs and make sure that the biggest part of the donations can go to the program work of translation, publishing, and distribution. So thank you, Lisa. Again, another one of our international guests introduced earlier, I'd like to have Ted Nathalang join us. Ted, as I mentioned before, oversees all of our Asia work, travels extensively to Asia, different countries, visiting translation teams, making sure that translation principles are being followed to ensure the most accurate and reliable translations are produced and printed, and just does a great job for us. Ted lives in St. Louis, and we're always happy to have him come visit the office because he's usually bringing a suitcase tour full of new books that have been recently published in Thailand or one of the other countries that he visits. And I'd also add that in recent years, Ted has really taken on additional work. A lot of the books that we print now for different locations are laid out and printed in Bangkok and then shipped into Africa, countries like Ghana, Ethiopia, Kenya, to name a few. Also coordinates work in Papua New Guinea with the missionaries that are in PNG. So although the title might be Asia, Ted has really taken on an expanded role for us and has a great team behind him at the office in Bangkok. So thank you, Ted, for all that you do. I'd like to call Jennifer Bagnall up. Jennifer has been working with us since 2005. Coordinated a lot of what you see here tonight. Does a tremendous job maximizing the amount of hours that she works at LHF. And anything from the printed pieces that you see to newsletter articles, press releases are all coordinated and handled by Jen and some of the other individuals that help her out. So thank you, Jen, for your tireless service. I should also add, we're having this function here tonight. She's been working double duty this week because tomorrow there's a circuit-wide event in the Thumb area hosted at her congregation where her husband serves as pastor, and I think we're expecting about 300 or so guests for that. So between this event and that event, she's just done a phenomenal job really over the last number of months trying to pull all this together. So thank you, Jen. And then I'd like to have Linda Linehouse join us. Linda has been with us since 1998. Excuse me. Our first employee that we hired full time. She's been an integral part of the growth of the organization. When she first started, it was when we were still really transitioning from working out of the home of my parents' house into leased office space. She kind of followed in my footsteps, I like to say, because everything that I was doing at the time kind of got transitioned down to Linda, whether it was going to the post office every day, bringing the mail back. Now her role has become more exclusively involved with our database administration. All the gifts that you wonderful people send in to support are input and generated by Linda when the letters come back out to you. Make sure that our database is accurate and current, and does a lot of other behind-the-scenes work for us going back over 20 years now. So God bless you, Linda. Thanks for your service.
Before I call up Robert Ron and his wife, you'll notice one person really doesn't often talk about himself. But I always joke with Jeff that, and he never says it, but when I come back in the office from the road, what are you doing back here? Get back on the road where you belong. Things are going just fine. And they are going just fine because he really keeps the walls of this place up. So we are grateful to Jeff because he unselfishly serves his father's founding organization, and you see there's nothing there for him, but there is something. And I've tried to hide it. But I can't hide it.
Tad, what did you do? Oh, thank you so much.
This is in honor of the 25 years, Jeff, that you have been there with your dad the whole time. There's one gift remaining, and we'll call husband and wife up in a moment, but I don't know, when Pastor Otten was showing that Russian-English Bible, that was a book I used to teach English to students at Moscow State University in 1994. I went over as a volunteer missionary 24 years ago with LCMS World Mission, and the person who preached at my commissioning service is sitting right over there. So I always like to say, before I became the executive director, they had to make sure I was the pack mule because I would go to Russian often and take back books for them. The work has been tireless, And I think he's gone through a lot because a lot of people didn't really respect the fact of what he was doing. But time has shown, 25 years has shown, that this is a God-inspired organization and that God called Robert Ron to found this so that others might know about Jesus. And that's what it's all about. Robert and Mrs. Ron, please come forward.